That's why frameworks are good, but if you're getting someone else's checklist of stuff, it will never work. You've got to go based on your own experience. And this loops up to a meta concept around this, which is just you need to just establish a relationship with a client where they trust you and then consistently communicate to where it's at. So if
Yeah.
you've got that relationship, those anxious clients, that anxiety comes really down really fast and like comes down really low and really fast when you actually have a good relationship. And then when you're consistently it's not like daily, but maybe a fortnightly update or a monthly update, but you're showing up consistently with a good cadence of communicating where things are at. Like people are never disappointed when you're telling them how things are going. They're only disappointed after the fact and you didn't keep them up to date. And that's one thing I've noticed. If you just keep people up to date with how things are at, a few insights you're having, you don't need the it will be fine in 20 days. You're just going to be like, look, this is the initial data we've seen. Give me another 14 days and I'll give you another insight to where we're thinking it's heading to. Because all you can measure is what it's done and where you think it's like the direction it's moving in as well. Like
Yeah.
that's as far as you can go. Like this is what's happened based on my experience. I still see that it's going here based on, and this is what I say all the time. This is what's working for other clients at the moment. So I'm actually using like a bit of a social proof, being it talking about other clients, but also actually using real data and real expertise that we're having at the moment. Because even though Cory, I know you've said all these wonderful things like you can't predict the future and stuff, there's like you've probably you tilted it more in your favor based on your expertise and the data that you have as well. So a lot of the times when clients come to us, it's not because we can guarantee the future. It's more that we've got a higher probability of getting closer to that outcome or moving in that direction they want. And we unconsciously do that because we've been doing it for so long that when someone says something like, dude, that's crazy. No. And I'll just be like, no, that's not possible. Rather than some people like, okay, let's try that.
Yeah.
We can do that. Like,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can do it, rather than going like, nah, bro, I'm not going to be that type of person. That's
Yeah.
why like I don't work with any, well, we don't actually have any clients at the moment are doing like B2C lead generation. Cause I'm like, for a lot of B2C products, they're not that, there's not much revenue that can be generated from it and the profitability is low. And with the ad rising, costs rising, and most people not rising their product costs, like this for service-based business, I'm just like, I'm not willing to take it on, so I have to explain it. Like I prefer to get one lead. Like the other day, I got a text from a client who's like, we just got an $8 million client. Sweet. They got a client for $8 million. Now I don't have to like, but for other clients to make them $8 million, that would be probably like thousands of leads. And I'm like, well, where do I want to be playing to win? And it's just like, yeah, just not wanting to deal with anxious clients, which are usually smaller businesses who have less revenue to make and less profitability to make on every single lead or sale.
Yeah. The reality is the anxiety goes up when results are not great. So, right, and micromanagement tends to start tilting, starts progressing when things are not going well. When things are great, usually you don't hear from the client because they just things are great and they know it, they feel it. You're communicating that to them in a transparent way. So, yeah, I think you have to kind of identify what's happening too. Sometimes it's just results are getting worse and they start leaning into these tendencies of micromanagement, and there's ways to sort of attack that, combat that, if you will. But that's a whole other
which is just don't
conversation.
have clients like that, or just communicate better, or set the. I
Yeah,
think it's actually about setting expectations, but most importantly, people talk about set expectations. You got to maintain those expectations
that's
because
true.
people
Yep.
will start to like you tell them the expectations and they start to dwindle down. You're like, bro, this is how we operate,
Yeah. It's
and
the whole
it's
like snarky, like, see email above. I already told you this before. Why are we talking about this again? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh
Yeah,
mate, none of that is here.
I try not to. Yeah, it's hard not to judge, and because I don't want to get personal with clients in that way, because it's really not our place to do any of that. We want to maintain a valuable business relationship and a diplomatic business relationship, but at the same time, there is a professionalism that has to be consistent from both parties, and expectations are going to be given. Sometimes they're ignored. So at the end of the day, you give your expectations best you can, you reiterate those expectations, and then at a certain point, sometimes it's not working. The person just is choosing to ignore those expectations that you've given. And it is what it is. But to your point, I think you need to build the trust, you need to build the confidence. I personally, the clients that I work with, they know how data driven that I am and what that actually means. It's not just a buzzword for me. It's ridiculousness with with code and things like that. And I have statistical methods that tell me this thing is ready to move. We are good. This is good enough. It's time to move on this. It's time to change this. This is not working. They know this. They're not worried about like, hey, is it 14 days or do you think we need 21 days on this? It's like they trust. They know that I've got all these statistical methods that are running in the background. They just say, hey, look, when you're ready to move it, give us a heads up, or in some cases, just do what you need to do. And you're already killing it for us. We trust you. We know you've got all these crazy methods to do this stuff. You do what you need to do whenever, however long it takes. Sometimes if it takes too long, there's sometimes the business changes, right? You have to move with the speed of business, as they say, and things change, and that's totally fine. You can't wait for perfect data. There is definitely a balancing act that occurs. It takes a lot of years to explain that to clients in a way that they can understand. But those things are all relevant here in the conversation.
I think it's also important, just don't work with clients who think they're smarter than you.
That's an interesting
I'd like
one.
to say like be smarter than your clients, but that's not even being smarter than your clients doesn't actually fix the problem, especially if they think they're smarter than you. So just don't work with people because they'll always just be micromanaging, leading the thing. You don't need that.
You mean like in
once
this?
again, you just want clients who just trust you, who are just like, yeah,
Yeah.
cool, results are good, results bad. Do what you need to do. Let's go. And if you know your data and they don't think they're smarter than you, you'll always get ahead.
You mean smarter than you in terms of like the services that you're offering them?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. You know when some people think that they're smarter than you?
No, never.
Did your light just like go off?
Yeah, it's too much. it died on me.
Nice. Well, the 2025 predictions, I just think it's just like the data transparency. I really think that's where it's going to lead to. And just knowing your data from 2025 really will guide relationships with clients. I think it really has been for a long time now. I think like there was like a shifting point maybe a few years ago where it was kind of like, it was like the people who knew the data outside the ad account were like that was like a bonus, but I think that's just essential now. I really feel, and I know this for me saying this right now, you're like, yeah, no shit, dude. But like for most people, they're still just so in the ad account and they just think if they just get that 1% better at the ad account, they'll get a better return. It's like, you actually won't. I actually think that's like a mind virus thinking that getting better at the platform is going to get you better results now.
That's what drives content creators, right? That's what drives this behavior that we're seeing on social media of the, here's my 10-point performance max checklist. And here's, all this stuff it's getting a lot of engagement. Congrats for the content creators. But that mindset is what's driving it because people are so over-focused on in-platform stuff and thinking they don't know enough about Performance Max, as if they couldn't just read the documentation and then test things in their own account and establish their own benchmarks for their particular clients and their objectives. Those things can happen, but people, it feels easier. It feels, no one wants to feel left out, right? Fear of missing out is a big thing in any industry, and we're definitely not immune to it here. So, yeah.
I definitely don't get FOMO anymore with any of this stuff because I've just, after all these years, I'm just like, I'm not missing out on anything. I'm actually just missing out on like mind viruses or stupid ideas that are going to make my clients' accounts worse. My only thoughts now, I'm like, how do I force that simplicity? Like, how do I make sure that everything's simple and generates results? That's it. If anything starts to get a bit complicated, I'm like, no, not touching it. Not now. If I haven't like fully executed on all the simple things, it's just not worth it. So all these checklists and ideas and scripts, I'm like, if I haven't just done the stuff that I know that's works yet, then none of this stuff matters. Everyone's looking for that panacea, that magic pill, that silver bullet that's just going to they execute that script in the account. They just do this one PMAX change and then everything changes. And it's like, that only works when like the account's really bad and you're like inheriting it from someone and then you just like rebuild it with your basic structure and then it goes well overnight. But these little like magic tips that thinking that like by just getting some little things going to change the whole account overnight, it just does not happen. It just does not happen. I still feel like people are still looking for that rather than going, maybe I shouldn't work with this client. Maybe the results are bad because it's a bad business.
It's a bad business, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, do me a favor, make me a promise, more importantly, make yourself a promise. This year, 2025, use data analysis to determine where to spend more money and where to spend less money, and focus intensely on always answering that question and fulfilling that promise. That is going to help you more than any script or checklist or anything else out there.
Nice.